Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Rangers Review Morning Briefing. It is Friday, the 6th of September. I'm Derek Clark, and I'm joined by, again, a full-strength squad. Delighted to say Chris Jack joins us first of all. How's it going, Chris?
Not too bad, Derek. We've got through the first week of international week, the first week of life after an arrow from defeat, and we're almost at the end of it. So I'm sure we'll get through the next half an hour, no problem at all. I think I've said to you both this week, even when there's nothing happening at Rangers, there's always something happening at Rangers.
And yeah, plenty to discuss, and unfortunately, it centres around injuries, which we'll get on to. Stevie joins us also. How's it going, Stevie?
Yeah, I've not been disappointed to not being on the Rangers review this week, so I've managed to avoid it. But it's nice to be here and discuss everything that's going on. So
we have missed you, even if you've not missed us.
Yeah.
Not missed the circumstances. Yeah. Nothing to do with the personnel.
Yeah, you were on yesterday, wasn't it? Or the day before for the members, you guys, your latest episode of the Talking Point where you discussed James Tavernier. I urge you to go and have a watch of it, folks, if you haven't already done so. As expected, it's created a bit of debate on social media. And go and have a watch of that, folks. Right, let's crack into the Rangers news. The Europa League squad, as we touched on a couple of days ago, Rangers were to submit their squad to UEFA for the upcoming group stage campaign, and it emerged yesterday that there are two notable omissions to said squad, and those are Matondo and Danilo. Matondo, of course, hobbled off in Sunday's Old Firm defeat to Celtic. He withdrew from the Welsh squad for their Nations League matches as well after sustaining a hamstring injury. He's set to be sidelined for up to 2 months, which is a bit of a blow. And Danilo, well, he's obviously been coming back from a long-term knee injury, and he suffered a small setback on that. He's travelled back to the Netherlands for treatment and rehabilitation. There was an image of him yesterday at Glasgow Airport with a brace on his leg. It's thought that it's not serious, and he's expected to return to training in the coming weeks, but he has been omitted from that European squad. Chris, don't know where to start with this. Let's start with Danilo. So unfortunate for the lad, of course. He picked up that knee injury. He had the face injury, if you remember, at McDermott Park to begin with, and then he picked up that knee injury at Tynecastle coming back, and he suffered a small setback, you could say. We won't see him in Europe this year on this group stage campaign. No idea when we will see him. I know that Rangers are expecting back trading in a few weeks, but this is extremely unfortunate.
It is, but I've seen quite a lot of comments since we reported this yesterday. I've seen a lot of people saying he's injury prone, he's this, he's that. It's not really the case. Now, the first injury that he picked up at McDermott Park was a freak accident. 99 times out of 100, he wins that header, he scores that goal, and he runs away celebrating. He doesn't get the collision with the defender that ultimately ended up. And then even if you do have that collision, he's really unfortunate to then suffer that extent of damage. That also keeps him out for several weeks. He does what he can do, does everything he can do to get back playing as quickly as possible. He wears the mask, he goes through the proper channels, and then comes back playing. The injury that he sustained at Tynecastle, again, there's nothing you can do about it. Even at the time, when you first see it, it looks fairly innocuous. You then see the replay and you think that could be a sore one. And of course, it then turns out to be a really bad one and requires surgery and the rehab. So saying that he's injury prone, for me, doesn't really stack up. Now, he suffered a freak injury the first time around. It was really unfortunate with the second injury. And when you have something of that manner and of that severity, it's not going to be a case of you have your rehab time, you come straight back in and you're the same player immediately afterwards. It's always going to take a bit of time to get back up to speed. There's always the danger of small things going wrong. When I spoke to him in the summer for the big interview for the Rangers Review, he spoke about you go in some days and there is no progress at all, and you feel like you're not getting anywhere. You go in the following day and it feels as if you've made big steps. You go in the day after that and it feels like you've had 1 step forward and 2 steps back. Even all this time on, having played some games and also having scored his goal against Ross County, he's still going to get things like that. There'll be challenges in training, there'll be challenges during games, there'll be ways that he twists and he turns that will just naturally make him think, is there something in this? So I don't really buy into the let's go and write Danilo off just because he's had this setback. I think he's doing the right thing by getting it properly checked out. He's also going to take a bit of time to rehab. I think it's unfortunate that he's missed out on the European squad, because this Europa League new campaign, it does last until into January now. So if you're talking about a four-week timescale, he doesn't miss that many of the European games. And you look at, again, as we spoke about towards the end of the transfer window, you look at the depth of striker that Rangers have right now. It's now Cyril Dessers, because Igaman, even though he came off the bench at Parkhead, we've got no idea how good he is, how robust he is, what level he's at. So slightly surprised that Danilo didn't get in that squad. You almost write him off for the first couple of games, and then you say, right, we can then try and get some game time. The plan, I assume, will be to rest Cyril Dessers in some of the domestic games, give Danilo more domestic game time, and then use Cyril in the European games. Time will tell if that works or not. But I definitely don't buy into the thing of let's just go and write Danilo off because he's injury prone. As I said, that's not the situation as I see it.
That being said, Stevie, James with a point here, he says another Seb Rosenthal incoming. I do fear for this as well. That when we spoke to him, didn't we? We heard from him after the Birmingham game, and he sort of said that he feels good, but he has to try and not sort of think about the injury and go onto the pitch and just think about nothing else other than playing for Rangers. I have concerns that he won't return the same player. Whether we see him at any point in the timescale that has been reported, who knows? He will have to get up to speed, and of course Rangers were taking their time over him. I do have concerns that it's a lot of money Rangers have spent in this guy, and we won't see a proper return for it.
I don't share those concerns, I've got to be honest. Daniel's already back in the gym. He's already back doing training. The only thing he's not done is kick a ball. This happened on Monday, so he's already been back in. So, Derek, these things happen, and if it was any normal player, you would say a couple of weeks out, it's absolutely fine. It's not a problem. It just so happens that Danny's coming back from something that's pretty serious. So, I think that at the moment, we're in a frame of mind amongst the support on social media and things like that, where as soon as there's a slight noise about anything, it's all burn it all down and he's finished, he's this, he's not. I think we just need to give it a wee bit of time with regards to getting Danny up to speed where he needs to be. It's a really bad injury, so I've got no issue with, these kind of questions surrounding him, Derek. I understand why people might be thinking it because we've had it so many times in the past, but I'm not concerned about him and where he is. I am very surprised he's been omitted from the European squad. The reasoning behind it has been explained, or we've heard the reasoning behind it that, domestically they want to use him a wee bit more. But you may remember a couple of weeks ago, Derek, that I said on this show that Igamani in training has allegedly been shown up really, really well, and they're excited about the talent and the player behind it. I think that has got a wee bit to do with why he's made it in European squad and just given Danilo time to get up to speed, going from weekend to weekend instead of having to be more midweek and things like that. I think they're quite comfortable that Igamani might be the wild card that we've perhaps been looking for up there. So I think that kind of explains the manager's thinking. Whether or not that's right, we'll soon find out. And with Chris, I do think we've got a lack of options up there. I would have thought Danny would have been in it, and I'm disappointed he's not. But it is what it is. It might give him more time to get back to where he needs to be. So I don't understand what you're saying, but I'm not concerned about that. This is a slight setback. It's a grade 2 injury, so it's not an issue. And I think in a couple of weeks he'll be absolutely fine.
Right, okay, yep. He did score, and it was good to see him scoring against Ross County coming off the bench, but I think we need to see him in a consistent run of games. Like you, Stevie, I'm disappointed not to see him in that Europa League squad if it's nothing too serious. But yeah, there you go. Egeman gets the nod. I'll read you that full squad in detail. Is Jack Butland, Liam Kelly, Lewis Budinaukas. Defenders James Tavernier, Ridvan Yilmaz, Robin Proper, John Suter, Dujon Sterling, Jefte, Naratio, Cashin Weirjo, and Leon Balogun. Midfielders Oscar Cortez, Conor Barron, Mohamed Diamandi, Nadim Bajrami, Kieran Dill, and Nico Raskin. And the forward players, I'm not sure why Tom Lawrence is in there, but it's Tom as a forward is more of a midfielder. Tom Lawrence, Cyril Dessers, Vaslav Cherny, and Hamza Egeman. The Rangers have a B team list as well, like Leon King, Bailey Rice, Alex Lowry on there. I think Ross McCausland's on there as well on that B team list, so it means that those guys have came through the academy, can play as well. Other omissions, of course, Yanis Hadji not included, not in Philippe Clement's plans, and Clinton Enciala, the summer signing from AC Milan, also not included in that European squad. Let's talk about Rabbi Matondo, Chris, and he's someone that's set to be out for 6 to 8 weeks with a hamstring injury. He turned up in that Celtic game with a lot of strapping on his leg, so it was clear that he was nursing something. He then played on. Do you think that's maybe a regret? He should have. Maybe Philippe Clement would think maybe not starting him was the best idea.
I think only the medical staff will be able to determine if more damage has been done by playing on after initially pulled up. Given the managers, pernickety is probably the wrong word, but he's very big on not playing players and not taking risks if there is this doubt. So I think we all agreed that Matondo was the best option for that left-sided berth. Certainly, while Cortez is still working his way back, Matondo deserved, I think, to get the nod over Ross McCausland. I think if the manager believed there was a real danger that a player would then miss this length of time, he would not have taken that risk, and he would just have played McCausland. I think only the player and the medical staff will know whether more damage was done when he tried to play on for those few minutes after initially going down. In the bigger sense, this almost sums up Rabbi Matondo's Rangers career. He played well against Ross County. He was back in good form. He was playing with a smile on his face in that game, and people then, I say, rightly believe that he should get the nod at Parkhead. And now he's out for 6 to 8 weeks. That inconsistency of availability and inconsistency of form has blighted his Rangers career. Me and Stevie spoke ahead of the transfer window. I know Stevie said he would take £1 million or so just to get him off the wage bill and give the manager money to then go and reinvest. Mm-hmm. And he wasn't speaking in. Now we're now a week on from that. It's not hindsight in 2020 hindsight to say that should have been the case. I think we all agreed that should have been the case, because this is just what you get from Rabbi Matondo. You get the odd game where you think there's a player in there, but you never get game after game after game, week after week after week, and that's just the downside of him. So it does leave Rangers short on that side. Hopefully Cortez is fit. The manager spoke about him last week. Hopefully he's fit and is good to go by the time Rangers return to action, because I think we all would have liked to see another wide player come into the club during the window. It was something they were looking at, couldn't manage to get it over the line. I think that those flanks are now looking really, really bare for Rangers in terms of bodies, but certainly in terms of quality as well.
Yeah, Rangers are light at left wing, Stevie, for me, and Matondo's injury has me concerned. I mean, Cortez is coming back from an injury himself. Whether he can play a run of games without pulling up again, I touch wood that he can. Then you're looking at the likes of, McCausland's played out there. Vaslav Cherny can play out there if need be. I would like Jefte. Jefte has played at left wing for his team over in Cyprus before. Maybe play Robbie Fraser at left back. Egeman, as Multiple Man says, Egeman can perhaps play at left wing. Not ideal, is it, this injury to Rabbi?
No, it's not. But like Chris said, this is, if we go back a couple of weeks ago, it's exactly what I spoke about. Exactly what we both said about Rabbi, as Chris had said. So it's an unfortunate one. It's a frustrating one. but you almost discount him at times because this is, like Chris says, this is what you get, which is really unfortunate for him based on the 2 years that he's been here. So option wise, I'm with you. Jeffy, looked okay in Kiev, didn't he? So he looked okay, and he can play there. He added a bit of excitement and things like that. And I think that Robbie Fraser can come in at left back.
Yep.
I've said Robbie Fraser's looked perfectly comfortable. I would like to see him get given an opportunity. Even if you don't want to do that, even if there's a little bit of a, he's a young lad, he's coming into a team that's perhaps not vibing as well, put Dujon Sterling at left. If you're not going to put him at right back where he should be, you could maybe get the new boy, Cassan Virgil, he could play at right back. There's options, Derek. There doesn't need to be, we just put, Ross McCausland on the left because Cortez isn't ready. There's things that you can do. There's options there. Now, they might not all be great options, but there is options that you can mix it up. I'm with you. Jeffy can play there, and he's looked quite comfortable, quite exciting. He's got a turn of pace, hasn't he? He can also get back and help. So it's one of those ones that I think, personally speaking, I don't want to go back to Sunday too much because we've all had nightmares over it. But I think Sunday, that performance, individually and collectively, means that there's so many places up for grabs now. And I think you can realistically say that you would have looked at Casa Virgil coming in and possibly said, well, he's just going to be back up, isn't he? All of a sudden, in my opinion, he can go and get a place in that first team because there is so many spaces up there, right back, centre back, that he can come in and play. So I'm not sure that anyone can come out of that game and say, oh, my place is definitely cemented. I've played really well and I've done this and I've done that. Everybody's up for grabs. So it's the left wing position, Derek. Yeah, it's tricky, but there is things he can do. And I don't think you could my point I'm trying to gibber on about is that I don't think you could really say Jeffy at left back, no, let's keep him there. He can move about. You can then put Sterling. Sterling wasn't really great in midfield. You could theoretically say, well, you could cover at left back at the moment, etc. That's the point I'm trying to make. So I just think that there is things that we can do there to give us at least options.
Yep. The transfer window, Chris, do you think, are you surprised Rangers never brought in another striker and a left winger? You did say that, they were tracking a number of players right up until the close of the window. Of course, Samuel Edozie looked to be on his ways. That's now since signed for Anderlecht on a season-long loan. Oh, how I wish that move had materialised, given the situation Rangers are in. But are you surprised that they sort of left themselves short in two key areas? I think it's fair to say that the majority of the fan base felt that Rangers need to strengthen in.
Not sure if surprised, because I'm sure if they could have done a deal, then I'd like to think they would have done. They maybe just comes down to finances. They maybe needed another player to move on that didn't happen, and maybe the scope just isn't there anymore. I think, as we all said on the deadline day show last week, and as I've said since, Rangers are short. They're short of quality in certain areas. They're short of bodies in certain areas. Even I know Noel agreed it was the right time for someone like Scott Wright to move on, but that's in a squad place that ultimately wasn't filled. They got Ben Davies out and replaced him. Got the other midfielder in with Bajrami, but I think in that top end of the pitch they are short. Certainly in the wide areas. I said right at the start of the window and a couple of times through it, I wasn't surprised they didn't go in and sign another number 9, because you can only carry so many of them within a squad. If you have £4.5 million worth of Dessers and you've got £6 million worth of Danilo and you've invested in it and Hamza Agaman, you then bring another one in. He wants to play, but so does Agaman, so does Danilo, so does Dessers. You've only got the one spot. I always felt that a number 9 coming in relied on Dessers moving on. That didn't happen. He was happy to stay. Manager made that clear. So I wasn't surprised that a number 9 wasn't brought in, despite all the talk about it. I do think that they are really short, and not just on the back of the Matondo situation. I think we needed another one brought in to give Rangers an option on either flank. Ideally, someone who could have played both sides would have been ideal, but You know, look at the makeup of that final third, and even someone like Cortés coming back in, we still don't really know how good he's going to be. How robust is he? He's very much still, I think, a bit of an unknown quantity. Tierney on the other side is a bit more of a known quantity. I think we've seen so far what he can bring. If anything was to happen to him over these next few weeks, where does that leave Rangers? Now that is you playing Drefty on the left and John Sterling on the right, and we're only then a fortnight or so on since Josh was talking and went through the video and went through the analysis of here's what a Rangers side with two proper wingers looks like. This is what Clement has been building towards. That situation could easily be taken away from him, and that then also has a big impact on how this side performs.
Stevie, there's a question that came in here from Maka. It says, when does the free transfer market end, Derek? Saw that the Van Ginkel connection being made again. You can buy a free agent at any point in the year. They aren't contracted to a club. Should Rangers be looking to acquire a free agent, you reckon, even just on a short-term basis to shore things up?
I think if we had any intention of doing that, we would have done it before the European deadline. Only my opinion. I'm not saying we're not, but I don't think there's a budget for it, to be quite honest. I know the manager might have said, but this is, again, it's difficult not to mention our last game, but this is the issue I have with the unbalance of our squad, Derek, is because we went on Sunday and the way that we were set up is the way we always set up. So that requires a dedicated 6 and a dedicated 10. We didn't have it. And the midfield just looked a wee bit lost. It was a midfield that we asked for, by the way. So there's no revision here in saying, you know, he got it wrong. He picked the 3 that we wanted, but I think we were set up wrong. You're asking them maybe to do jobs that they're not capable of doing. And we looked a wee bit lost. And my concern is that he's went on quite a lot about John Lundstrom in the summer. He's mentioned him more than once. Chris will know. Chris has been at all these things that he's mentioned him more than once, that he's been a loss, etc., and that he's not replaced that 6th position. Even last week he said about looking into the free market and possibly doing something surrounding that. So that's in his mind. So we've got a bit of an issue with that. And I think that we all forget, I think that Barjam is still to come in, which we're pinning a lot on him. You're pinning a lot on Cortés. You're pinning a lot on Diomande as the 8 instead of maybe a 10, which I think he can, but he's not looked as effective as he was in the 8. And then your 6 is a real issue. So what do you do in there? Because Conor Barron's done all right in it, and there will be games where Conor Barron will be absolutely fine. But there'll be games like last week where he might struggle to pick up that position, and he doesn't have the time to play passes and stuff like that without getting caught, as we've seen. So I've got a real issue with, you know, the fact that we possibly haven't moved in Marco Van Ginkel, you know, as it was linked several points during the summer. And there was a lot of chat at one point. So I've not heard anything about us saying that we were back in. It was pretty quickly knocked down and pretty quickly denied by the club that there was any interest at all. So he remains a kind of unknown rumour, I think. But I just think that if they were going to go and do something with the emphasis he's put on that 6, and he spoke about it quite a lot, they would have done it before now. So I would think, Derek, that this is it. This is the squad we have. And that might, you know, there's a valid question to Philip Clement in that, you know, your strategy, information, etc. If it's here to stay and you're not for bending that, which looks pretty obvious, then surely you must take into account the results and the performances, not only 1 or 2 games, because he will immediately say, I think, the game before Ross County we had our biggest win, etc. But this isn't about 1 or 2 games. This is about the last 20. And the win ratio is not high enough. The performances aren't good enough. So at what point is it a valid enough stage to question Philip Clement on the decisions that he's making surrounding the strategy and the setup, etc.? And you can do that, and that's what I tried to say in my column this morning. I think you can do that quite well. And it's not an immediate, you know, let's get him out the door or anything. I am not there. I don't think that's right. But it doesn't mean you can't question a wee bit of what's going on. So it's interesting. We don't have a 6. We don't have that natural position. It doesn't look like we'll go into the free market for anybody, the free transfer market. So will he change that? Will he fix it? Or will it be a case of somebody filling in, Derek? I think your question leads to bigger questions because I don't see them doing anything. I would be pleasantly surprised, rather, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think number 6 certainly was a priority position that Rangers had to strengthen in. For me, I don't think enough business was done in the summer window. But again, finances dictate, unfortunately. And speaking about finances, just a couple of bits and pieces of news that you would have seen yesterday. Graham Souness says that Rangers would need to spend £50 million in order to catch Celtic. He was on the 3 Up Front podcast that's run by William Hill. He says right now there's a gap between Rangers and Celtic, but it's not insurmountable. 3 or 4 quality signings could make the difference, but Rangers don't have the money right now. If they were to spend £50 million, it'd be nip and tuck between the two of them. He added, there was a time when Celtic won 9 titles in a row and the Rangers fans would have been thinking, this is it, we're never going to win again. They did come back though, and then they went on to win 9 in a row. Rangers just need money now. They finished second last year and spent £14 million on new players. Celtic spent double that and they won the league. They still managed to come second against them despite spending half the money. They just need an influx of money. That's all it is. Makes it sound simple there, Chris, doesn't it? But unfortunately, we don't have £50 million.
They don't, but if they had spent what money they have better, then I think we would be in a better position. Made this point throughout the summer. For me, it's not about how much Rangers spend, it's how they spend it. They have gone from winning 55 to a European final to a record-sailing Calvin Bassey to the first tranche of Champions League money in 10 years. And where are they? For all of that that's come in, where are they? They are miles behind Celtic on and off the pitch right now. So that's the problem. It's not been a case of they have not spent at all. For all the criticism that you can direct at this board and this group of investors and this chairman, you can't say that successive managers have not been backed. You go back to Steven Gerrard after 55. He clearly felt that he was not given the financial resources that he wanted and that he needed. Since that, Gio was given money, Michael Beale was given a lot of money, Clement has had his fair share of money, and it's how it has been utilised. It's the wages that have been given to players that are not worthy of it. It's fees that have been spent. It's the injury bill that has put tens of millions of pounds sitting in the stand every single season for the last few seasons. How many assets are in this squad right now? That's something I think the manager has tried to do over this window. Previous iterations of this squad, how many assets are there? Where is the next Calvin Bassett? Where is the next Nathan Patterson? Where is the next guy that you can sign for £1 million and sell for? It doesn't even need to be 20. Rangers need to get into the habit of signing guys for £1 million and selling them on for 8 to 10. That's where your money comes from. That and European prize money. That's where Rangers get their finances from to then continually grow and evolve and get bigger and get stronger. They've wasted that opportunity because the money has been put in the wrong areas and the wrong players by the wrong people. So it's not a case of there's a check or there's an open checkbook for 50 million. Go and spend it, and you automatically win the league. Rangers have shown that you can spend a lot of money very, very badly, and if you spend a lot of money badly, you don't get any further forward.
Yeah. Can I just jump in on that a wee bit? Because I agree with what Chris is saying. I think this has become like the answer to everyone's problems, just throw money at it. I would rather, before we even contemplated spending money, go and get me a CEO that's actually a qualified CEO. Go and get me a director of football. Go and get me a head of academy. Let the investors, John Bennett, etc., let them put in a chairman who's experienced and can run a football club. Then the investors can sit in the background, not having to make decisions or anything. And that's not a slight on them, but they're not, as Graham Souness pointed out, they're not football experienced. Yeah. Put the correct people in place at the club. Set your structure straight away. Because my biggest worry is, and it's something that Chris touched on, and we've done it the last 3 or 4 summers after Gerrard. We keep flinging money at it, like 15, 16, 17 million consistently. And I worry it's like trying to put a bandage on a broken leg. Every time we're trying to move from A to Z to try and catch up too quickly. we should have had this all in place, put the structure in place so that if that money was there, you can properly do it. It doesn't mean you go and spend 50 million on one summer, but I would much rather have had that all in place and said, you know what, see, instead of bringing 11 in this summer, or 6, 7, 8, 9 went in last summer, the same the summer before, whatever it was, what if we could bring in 2 or 3 that are really, really good that we know? So, for example, this summer, they were linked consistently with Morgan Whittaker, weren't they? And there was even, it made it onto Sky saying that those bids for that amount of money were real. Perhaps instead of buying 11, what if we had just went and got that one quality player and a couple of other players, and that's your first window? And then January, maybe get one more. Next summer, you build it up instead of. My biggest fear is that we've just done the exact same as what we've done the last 2 summers, and we've got no overall people in there that are seeing it and overseeing the strategy and things like that. So I get Souness's point, and I get what people say about we need money, we need investment, we need this. I think before we do any of that, we need proper structure, Derek. Proper people in there making the decisions, proper people that are attuned to where we're going to go, that are going to say, well, hold on, let's not do that this summer because we've done it the last 2 or 3 and it's not worked. Let's take our time, because it's such a gap that if we don't start bridging it little bit by little, it'll just keep getting wider and we'll find ourselves in this recurring bit that we've already done the last couple. So that's my biggest fear and that's my biggest wish. If you ask me tomorrow, you've got £50 million, what do you want to do with it? Put the structure in place.
Yeah.
Spend the money on proper people. Get a chairman, a CEO, a director of football. And that's no slight on John Bennett or anything. I'm not here. I'm not going to start throwing accusations and criticisms and all that. Everybody's had a whole lot to say. Just put proper people in place and let them run the football club with a strategy and everything else. And listen, I'm just me. This is my biggest concern. And that's how I would do it, instead of just going, there's 50 million for players, because as Chris pointed out, we've spent 50 or 60 million in the last 3 or 4 years, and look what it's got us. Without a proper strategy and structure and everything else, I fear that we would just be right back to where we were.
Yeah, well, the board are very much in the firing line, given the gap that has emerged now since Rangers won their 55th title. It really is quite astonishing how far behind they are at this moment in time. But much change is required behind the scenes. Just before we wrap up, some might not want to hear what this lad has to say, but he was speaking yesterday, Chris, about his departure from Ibrox and his switch to Blackburn. Todd Cantwell conducted his first press conference as a Blackburn player, and he was speaking about his decision to leave Ibrox. He says there was change around the club. When a manager goes, the backroom staff go with him. It felt like a different place. When a new manager comes in, they have to put their stamp on things. I think we had a bit of a balance where last season we got ourselves into a position where we could go on to do well. Like I said, I've got full respect for the manager and management at Rangers now, but I didn't believe it was the right place for me to be. Those are personal reasons. You don't have to look too far behind tactics and the way a team plays and how you get the best version of yourself. I think at 26 years old, so if you're not sure what the best changing room for you to be in is, then ultimately you'll probably bounce around quite a lot. I made the decision. It's a bold decision, and yet let's see how it unfolds. So that is what he had to say. He also added about his time with Clermont, and Clermont coming out in that pre-season friendly against Birmingham. Says it was his decision to tell the press that that was my decision. We'd spoken internally for a while before the season had finished. Ultimately, we couldn't find a happy medium for both. The one thing I'm desperate to clear up, which I touched on in my Instagram, is that I never said I didn't want to play for Rangers Football Club. That never came out of my mouth and never would. So, yeah, there you go. What do you make of Todd's comments, Chris? He's just putting across his side of the story, I guess.
Hopefully that's the first and last time that we hear it, to be honest, because there's a couple of times during his first few months here, he promised, or he said he would reveal all the details behind his Norwich exit, and there was a story to tell, but now it wasn't the right time. Ultimately, as soon as he puts pen to paper at Blackburn, he's yesterday's man, he's yesterday's news. And the first time he spoke was always going to get a bit of a reaction, or a bit of traction, a bit of traffic. I think people were always waiting for that Todd Cantwell Instagram post. After that, I say Rangers have enough issues on their plate right now than to be worrying about what Todd Cantwell says or thinks or does. I hope he goes to Blackburn, enjoys himself, plays well, is a success. His Rangers legacy is a very short and small one. That was his choice. Ultimately, at the end of the day, he's moved on. He's made his decision. I think both parties now just have to go their separate ways. I say Rangers have enough on their plate right now. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah. Talk's the talk, but unfortunately we needed him to deliver on the park, and more often than not in big games, he never delivered, unfortunately. So that is what Todd Cantwell had to say about his decision to leave Ibrox. Look, Stevie smirking down there. You want to add something to this debate, Stevie?
No, probably best I don't. I just wish Todd all the best at Blackburn. Hope he does well. Hope he becomes the player that he thinks he is, and that'll benefit Rangers then, I should imagine. So, yeah, let's quickly move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, just a heads up then, because that'll do us for today. Lots to read over on the Rangers Review website. Stevie's piece is on there this morning. Do go and check it out, folks. It's well worth a read. The link is also in the description below this video, over on the YouTube channel as well. Plenty of content on there, as I touched on Chris and Stevie's talking point. Third episode is focusing on James Tavernier, so it's well worth a watch as well. Right. We hope you enjoy your Rangers free weekend, and we will be back on Monday morning. I wonder what we'll be talking about then. But enjoy your Friday and your weekend, folks, and we'll speak to you later on. Bye for now.